Buddy, what's up? It's Thursday, and today we're going to be streaming classical and blitz chess on lichess and Twitch. I'm Slaggy, aka Sparkle Horse on lichess, International Master William Paschall. We're streaming from Budapest, Hungary. Welcome everybody to my Twitch stream, and we're going to get underway here in just a couple minutes. What is up, everyone? Let's play some good chess today. I'm not going to drop any pieces, I hope. Stream is just already picking up here. Let me check and make sure we're good to go. Lord Alamo, Hunt the King are challenging me. If you guys want to play, challenge me to anything between 5 and 8 minutes with a small increment between 3 and 5 seconds. The larger the initial time, the smaller that the increment needs to be. So for those games that are like 8 minutes, we only need a 3-second increment. If you choose to play blitz with 5-minute time control, you can opt for a larger increment of like 5 seconds. Okay guys, let's get started. Lord Alamo, Victor against me yesterday. I hung a piece a very strange way, so hopefully we'll keep ourselves in a comfortable position today, because I felt kind of alien playing the white side of what was it, the white side of the center attack, center game. You can listen to the stream if you choose to, it's no problem. Whatever's best for you, man. I mean, I respect those who don't listen to the stream, but if you want to listen to the stream, that's fine too. It doesn't matter to me. So whatever's more comfortable for you. Some people find it hard to play. The too many cooks spoil the soup or broth analogy. So it's sometimes hard to play and distracting when you're listening to the stream. But if it's okay for you, it's okay for me. I'm going to get started here. Okay, let's play something solid. Yesterday I played e4. I'm afraid to play e4. My theoretical knowledge with e4 isn't what it is in the queen pawn games and d4. I'm not quite as well prepared. I have kind of weak spots. But yesterday was our unusual opening stream, and I don't really know the center game. I just kind of experiment with it sometimes. Here Lord Alamo replied to knight f3 with knight c6. So we could opt to play e4 and try to get back into sort of Spanish or something like that. Or we can play d4. Let's start off with a nice positional game. Could be a Chigorin. Yeah, I actually prefer to play with my knight on c3 against the Chigorin proper. So like d4, d5, c4, knight c6. I like to play the variation with 3 knight c3 normally. But here, that's not possible. So we need an alternative. After c4, bishop g4, we can play knight c3, but I like this line with bishop f4. I'm not a huge fan of, I'm not really a huge fan of the London system. I've been kind of critical that it's been a little bit over publicized, but against the Chigorin, I think bishop f4 is a pretty good move. Even Karpov, I think, has played bishop f4, which is a pretty good pedigree. Now knight f6 here. Interesting. Knight f6, takes away some flexibility for black. I mean, oftentimes when you're playing the Chigorin, you can do some funky stuff like f6, and even like f6, g5, h5. I had a crazy game with Josh Friedel once, where he, actually the only tournament game I've ever had with this line, where he played pretty quickly f6 and g5. It became very sharp. Alright, in this scenario, I'm going to play e3, keep my options open as far as how to develop. I think this is a bad move, though, e6. Blocking in your bishop on c8, bishop g4. Bishop g4 is the move, like on move 3, that's normally played. After bishop f4, bishop g4. I guess there are alternatives with bishop f5, but bishop f4, bishop g4 is pretty standard. Now you're going to have to suffer with like very little space here after e6. So I have the flexibility to go 2 squares with the queen pawn. I mean, what is this? The c pawn? Queen pawn? So, welcome, Lord Alamo. Welcome to Hunt the King. He said, hoo-hoo. Hoo-hoo. I like white here. It looks like black has a hard time anytime this bishop is blocked in. Anytime the bishop's blocked in on c8. Now he plays pawn takes pawn, so we have a kind of Queen's Gambit accepted, where my bishop is out on f4. Bishop d6 now. Good question here. I think that knight c3 is worth considering. Just letting him take on f4. If we want to play positionally, I know it seems strange to let him double the pawns on f4, but we would just maintain a kind of vice grip on the e5 square. But we can also play bishop g3. Bishop g3. I don't like exchanging on d6 that much. It sort of surrenders control of e5. Let's try this. This is interesting. Yesterday I said that against Lord Alamo and I lost, but I think we have a solid kind of positional argument for this move. Whatever happens, happens here. I don't know. I mean, I think bishop g3 is a little safer, but I feel like we have an actual principle behind this decision to allow bishop takes f4. Now he castles, so things are a little bit different. I would think playing bishop g5 starts to have kind of real validity here. Now that he's castled and something like h6 and g5 would weaken his king side, I would think this becomes, although a lost tempo, a valid concept of bishop g5. I'm strongly tempted to play bishop g5 here. Taking the pressure off of e5 though, allowing e5, kind of inconsistent. Alright, we'll just stick with our guns and maintain the bind on e5. That's not e5, this is e5. Yeah. We're a little mouse happy. I'm just trying to maintain the e5 square. Well, it's a classic London system theme. You know, he could play something like knight h5, kind of weird move. Now h6. h6 is a bit passive. How do I develop though? Rook e1 is interesting. Knight e5. Knight e5, bishop takes e5, bishop takes e5, knight takes e5, pawn takes e5, queen takes rook, and then knight g4, and I can't maintain my pawn, man. That's kind of nasty. You could play knight e5, bishop takes e5, pawn takes e5, queen takes queen. We're going to lose that pawn on e5. So knight e5 seems like I can't maintain the pawn on e5 if I play that move. And queen e2 drops a pawn. It's like hard to find a move that is a natural developing move here that works tactically. And Lord Alamo has a 2-minute lead on the clock. I don't know what to do here. Knight e5 is no good. Bishop takes e5. But actually, there's kind of a weird line there. Knight e5. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes queen, knight takes queen, followed by f4. I still don't think there's anything really to write home about for white. Alright, we gotta like really gear up here a little bit. Queen d3. Queen d3. Queen d3. Let's try it. It's a strange idea, isn't it? Strange ideas sometimes are good. Queen d3, not taking defense away from the d pawn, so I can bring rook d1. Man, it's a tough position. Looks optically like white has a great advantage, but I don't think it's so easy. I could play a weird move there, bishop b5. Bishop b5 with the intention of like chopping the knight to maintain control of e5, but after bishop e5, bishop d7, I don't really want to give up my white squared bishop in this kind of position. That's the problem. So queen d3. Normally e2 would be the most natural square for my queen. Now, of course, knight b4 is logical. That's okay. Now we drop back. We've got good control over e5. Again, maybe queen d2 there is a better move. Not your average position. Maybe queen e2 is a little bit too automatic. I might end up wasting time? I don't know. Bishop takes f4, pawn takes f4, knight d5, knight on bd5, g3, knight takes c3, b takes c3. You have a better pawn structure. White has better development. I don't know. I think most people would try to play for the pawn structure. The pawn structure should compensate for your spatial disadvantage to some extent. The rook e8 I don't like. Rook e8 will discourage me from playing pawn, like a capture on d5, I guess. You could play b6 at some point. I don't know. You're so fast compared to me. Much faster than me here. This is not easy. Alright, g3. Just defending f4 in advance. I don't know, rook e8 is kind of a funny move. You could actually use the rook in the case that I capture on d5. It's going to be a good piece, but if I don't capture on d5, it's going to remain on e8 kind of out of play. Okay, you're strengthening e6, I guess. Maybe discouraging f5 type moves. There's some benefit to rook e8. Now queen, knight to d5. Well, I guess white has a lot of moves here. As I just said, I don't want to take on d5 now. This is a debatable move by me. Maybe rook d1 is better. Lord Alamo is fast. What is this, classical chess? Hydrofire, hi. Hey Soroche, what's up? Don't forget to brush your teeth, man. Rook on ac1, I don't know if this is the best. Are we going to take with the rook, maybe? On c1? Yesterday we were looking at Karpov games. Prophylactic thinking. It's still not easy to break black down. I'm kind of still in the process of trying to prevent him from doing anything. It's very much about like preventing. I use a lot of prophylactic style play in my games. It's a lot more fun to play that way. Right now, rook takes. Pawn takes fixes my pawns to some degree, so it's really a tough call. Put my rook on c1, but now it's Very, very tough decision here. Alright. We'll live with the rook on c1 being not in the best square. We can move it later again. It was an arbitrary move, rook on ac1. Now, my concern is that black could play c5 somehow. So, we move on to our next stage in the prophylactic thought process, preventing or discouraging counterplay with c5. This move directly, aims to kind of prevent c5. Black freeing his position. White has more space, but black has more compact pawn structure. And yesterday I was talking to one of my students again about the Soltis book that we discussed in the stream yesterday. Pawn Structure in Chess by Andrew Soltis. I don't remember the exact title. The Soltis Pawn Structure book. He makes a point in there, of course, the important factor, like, in that, and you've got, let's play this. This important factor that when there's like pieces exchanged on the board, the space advantage means less. And that's to some degree true here. I mean, I think that black has managed to exchange 2 sets of pieces, reducing my advantage to some degree. Now, this knight is very powerful on e5. White is better here. There's an X-ray along the d file. Some endings I could play like knight versus bishop, but I have to be kind of picky about what kind of endgames I want to play exactly. Not always is the knight better than the bishop. Lord Alamo getting low on time. Finally, I have more time than him for the first time after 17 moves. Camel cultures here? No. Yeah, camel culture. You guys all calm down. Everybody's very excited here. f6. So f6 is, this is like basically a move I'm trying to kind of hoping will be a weakness. So I was actually inducing him to play f6 when I played knight e5. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad move. I think f6 is justified, but he does have a lot of weaknesses in his position. Weaknesses. Enunciate, man. Weaknesses. Weaknesses in the position, and now c5 is really dangerous. We're on the verge of a tactical breakthrough. f5. Does this work? There were other ideas like rook takes d5, but my queen is on the line with his rook here, so we have to take things with check. Now this is hanging with check. Lord Alamo panicked, took on f5. Couldn't withstand the Karpovian pressure anymore. So yeah, your play was a little bit wishy-washy. Fundamentally okay, but you had to make up your mind and find a clear plan at some point. And I think you never really achieved that. I think c5 toward the end was the only plan, but you got it in a position where it was too late, too risky along the d file. c5 the right idea, but really have to find the careful spot to be able to do c5 and break free for your pieces. Another plan, Lord Alamo, that might have been good would have been to play instead like a bishop d7. Instead, to find some spot where you could play like b6 and bishop b7. Because my king side, my king side is pretty weakened with like h3, h2, g3, f2. We have a lot of weaknesses. We can pre-move here. Queen takes g7. All right. It's a safe pre-move. Thanks for the game, Lord Alamo. Nice fight. We're going to play Hunt the King next. Welcome, everyone. Hydrofire. Camel Culture. Bronx Defense. Hydrofire. Chaos Company, hi. So that was an interesting strategic game. Interesting. I'm not really sure, you know, if bishop f4, allowing bishop takes f4, e takes f4, is that great there? But I didn't want to allow black to free his position with e5, so this is kind of a known idea, you know, played like by a lot of strong players have used e takes f4 in the Slav defense with white in the London system, different kind of queen's gambits. Hunt the king. All right, let's play a game with e4. We're gonna play a little bit of everything. We played knight f3 last game on move 1. Now we're playing e4. I've been working on my e4 games, and to my practical dilemma, because a lot of losses lately. I lost a couple games in the French in unfamiliar territory. Yesterday in that center game in the Weird Wednesday stream. So when I find myself in openings I don't normally play or don't know that much about, I'm much more prone to make a kind of gross blunder. Bishop a4. Online wiki. Queen h5. No, this is not Weird Wednesday. I would play Queen h5. I would play that on Weird Wednesday. It's pretty marginal, but even Bronstein mentions that 200 open games. The Nakamura attack. I'm sure it was played, you know, 200 years before Naka discovered it, but I don't know if it has a name. The Queen attack, Queen's attack, I think Bronstein calls it. Okay, so now the delayed Steinitz. This is a pretty solid line for black. Not really an opening that's popular in modern times, but you will see some strong grandmasters play this as a solid defense for black. One way to play the position is this. I'm not arguing that this is the best. It's a kind of principled approach. Principled approach, getting in d5 or d4. d5, I'm thinking like if you play this position with colors reversed sometimes, you'll play the same thing with d5. And here, I have seen knight takes d4, but it's not considered the main move. It makes a little more sense to take with the queen, develop a piece to an active square. Soroche, talking about hockey. Baseball's not even over yet. It is for me, though. Knight f6 now. I'm wondering if c5 there is a little early, I guess. But here I have e5. Like, e5's not a good move for white in this position. Now, that's how I got myself in trouble yesterday. Oh, by the way, in the game I played yesterday against Lord Alamo, we had a very strange opening. e4, e5, d4, the center game, or center attack. Pawn takes d4, e takes d4, queen takes d4. And now instead of the normal knight c6, he played knight f6. And now I played the mistaken move e5, which is probably not good. And after knight c6, there's like one game which is very weird with queen e3. But I played instead queen f4. Lord Alamo, what I missed there is you can play queen e7. It's a very strong move that practically wins the pawn by force. So the whole variation for me was kind of dubious. Now, e5 here, I don't know. I'm not going to get myself in trouble again. Whenever I try to do something experimental, it seems like it backfires. This extending move e5. We'll check after the game, but I'm gonna lean on the side of toward the side of caution here. I have the feeling there could be something okay for black there, but it seems like e5 should be okay for white. Be very curious to check it after the game. This is an unusual looking setup though. Bishop on e6. I've seen sometimes its bishop develop on this diagonal, but mostly black has counterplay along the b file in these lines. So the most common is to play b3. It negates any counterplay, against my b2 pawn. Sets up a fianchetto with bishop b2. Some threats on the long diagonal. But basically, white is playing for structural considerations here. I think that's the main idea. These pawns, they're supported by the pawn on c7, but they still have a kind of feel of being like hanging pawns. They're a little bit fragile. White has e5 for the whole game. This is kind of a threat to play e5 very often. In my history, guys, if we go back, if we look at my chess in the past, I mean, I don't really play this with white. I've always played stuff like c3 and more strategic, sort of keep the pieces on the board, play for like long-term space advantage. I believe that's more kind of lasting, but I decided to play this simpler setup for white. Zeus says, "Hey, are you still accepting students?" Yeah, we still have some place for a couple of students. If people are interested in lessons, you can send me an email, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. I do have enough time for 1 or 2 more students, so that's definitely an option. Now, so yeah, definitely give me an email. Now this is an interesting spot. I mean, queen d3, I've got to be careful if I play this about things like c4. It wouldn't actually be that devastating, though. Usually the best square, the d3, it's in the center, it's eyeing a6, it's keeping the central point defended. And again, I said I was studying Karpov's games yesterday. When I analyzed one of the games, there were some annotations by Mark Dvoretsky, the famous trainer who recently passed away. And Dvoretsky was talking about Karpov, how there's some similarities with, obviously there's similarities between Karpov and Petrosyan because both of them were very prophylactic style. They basically tried to kill everything that the other guy could do. Strangled the other player to death like a boa constrictor while not taking any risks yourself. And one of the things that they talk about was Karpov used oftentimes the same idea that Petrosyan used, which is overprotecting the strong point in the position. So this is a kind of major concept in Petrosyan's games, where he played white in the King's Indian attack type of thing, for example. He would always make sure that this e4 point is super powerfully overprotected. Would never lose control of the strong point in the position. It's kind of a principled sort of approach. Queen d3 is a move that, if I play queen d2, it's inferior for a number of reasons. It doesn't protect the strong point. It also robs me of knight d2, knight c4, which is a pretty good basic positional move. This is an interesting moment here, knight d7. Speaking of the strong point, interesting. I want to play knight to d5, but I've got to watch out for nothing really too scary, I guess. Kind of logical move, right? First candidate move most players would look at. And I'll just play the obvious move here. I think obvious is often good. I'm white all games today. It's not a good joke. It's happening again. I think that maybe people are continuing Sronche's troll without his knowledge. If you guys hear any banging in the background, please be patient as they do construction on the next house. Hopefully that won't continue for weeks on end, but it's not too bad actually. We hear a little bit of dull noise, but downstairs it's louder. It's actually not that loud here, so not that bad. Knight to d5 here. I was looking at f5 for black, but there's some drawbacks to that. There's some risk involved. So I'm not recommending necessarily black play f5. It's an idea. It's a pawn break, you know, but it's a kind of double-edged move. He has to calculate a bunch of variations carefully to make sure. C6 though looks like very risky strategically. Very, very risky strategically. Maybe it's okay though. You know, risky is one thing, losing is another. Maybe this is fine. You know, what would Karpov do? I can also take on e7 probably, but this seems stronger, you know, to keep the bind on the position, not trade pieces, keep black tied up. Knight e3 controls a lot of squares. It stops f5. Now I can frontally put pressure on this pawn on d6. I think knight e3 is hands down best move here. It also controls c4. So basically when we look at this variation, I mean, I think that in the true sense of chess, you know, truest sense of chess, probably something like, you know, c3 followed by a slow build up for white is objectively best against the delayed Steinitz, but this variation demands accuracy from black. Now knight b6. Maybe rook d1. My f rook can come back to e1, get into the center at some point. There's some argument for rook fd1 maybe. The a rook, I don't know what it's doing there though. It's not looking like it's really in the game. I think this is okay. Now here it looks like black has some chances. Maybe I didn't play the best. I'm no Karpov. So I think that black, maybe I made a mistake there. Rook d1. Yep, d5 is correct. d5 is correct. This is a problem for me. Okay, still I'm not saying the black necessarily equalized, but that's a move that I shouldn't have allowed. I really should have stopped it. Maybe I just have to cold-bloodedly play c4 here. This is very logical, you know, c4. Big mistake. To let black play d5 here is really a big mistake. I think I lose a fair chunk of my positional advantage here. We do have some options though. This is going to get kind of weird. We're going to try to blockade the weak pawns a la Nimzovich. Definitely best move. I don't know. I don't know that I'm still better here, but maybe. Maybe not. You have some space advantage. These pawns are definitely the target for the long term. A4. Don't want to run out of time. I'm going to hold off on A4, I guess. But actually, why not A4? A5. Yeah, I don't think you have to play A5. I'm not trying to... Although maybe I should think of a different plan here. Alright, we have some threats, perhaps. Knight takes D4. Hunt the king, really cagey, but we have some threats of our own. This was a weird game. I think after D5 you had probably sufficient counter chances, but still not easy to play with the weakened pawns, so you have to be very accurate. Yeah, there's nothing here. This looks like tactical problem. Alright, interesting game. We've got challenges from Sedan, Pawn Spanker, King Wiki, Camel Culture, Azimli Sitari, and Aprili. Knight Amprise, welcome. If you guys miss your challenge or something happens, let me know. Scaleaf says that he's still not in on it. Well, you guys told me that Saronche started the joke yesterday with the whites every game, but I didn't think we were going to continue that again today. All right, let's see. Sedan is up. If somebody loses their challenge, yeah, I'm white again. I guess you guys are going to play this forever. It's a little strange now to continue it, but if you guys enjoy playing black every game, that's fine by me. I'm going to try an English opening today with this game with C4. And then the instant D6. Why D6? Against C4, I don't really understand D6. I could understand it against E4 or Knight F3 or even D4, but I think against C4 it's kind of an odd move. Not bad, but I don't really see a purpose for D6 against C4 per se. On move 1, you can play other moves, E5, G6, but whatever. This will simply transpose to some other line. Wait again. Yeah. Well, Saronche admitted to me yesterday about the trolling thing where I was white every game. I didn't know it was going to be a permanent situation. Hopefully this applies in my tournament games too. Actually, I didn't play any games off stream yesterday, did I? I don't think I played any off stream games yesterday. I have to check. If I got white in those two, no, I don't think I played yesterday. So D6 and F5. This is a setup. A perfectly valid setup for black. Kind of Dutch approach against the English. But there's no benefit to playing c4 d6. You could play like c4 e5 and achieve the same position with more flexibility. Let's see. I'll just play e3 here. There's a lot of different setups you can opt for. Knight f3 or knight e2. d3, although they're usually playing knight f3. You can delay, play rook b1. Sirwan loved to play like very early rook b1, b4, b5 type stuff. Actually, I don't know who this person is. Okay, it's a totally new account. This is their like second game or something. C down. Closed Sicilian with colors reversed. Now, if I play d3, black could theoretically play d5. And it's probably fine. So we're more or less kind of like forced to play knight d5 to keep control of the d5 square. Guys, what's going on in the chess world? Oh, I saw, yeah, the result of the Millionaire Chess, what is it called? Millionaire Chess Tournament in Atlantic City. Sunny Atlantic City. Yes, I know it well. Bishop e7. So Darius Swierz wins the tournament. Polish phenom. Actually, where's Scheveningen should be here. He should have gone and like scooped the under 1800 section or something. They could have had a double Polish celebration. One of our regular players here in the stream who's quite strong and underrated is this guy Scheveningen, who, you know, he's a player who should play in one of these under sections and like take it down. He could have, would have been funny if two guys would from the same country would win massive prizes in the tournament. But Swierz took down $50,000 for first place in that. It was kind of a disappointing showing, I think, because the chess.com Isle of Man tournament going on at the same time. I wondered about that, you know. It's not a little weird that this chess.com Isle of Man thing is going on at the same time as the Millionaire Chess Open. They actually overlapped. I'm thinking like maybe there's some not that happy blood between Maurice Ashley and the chess.com or something, because it's kind of dis to run your tournament at exactly the same time. Although maybe just there's nothing that can be done about it. But mostly chess organizers try to be considerate of one another and not necessarily try to run similar tournaments at the exact same time. But we are talking about two completely different continents, so maybe there's nothing can be done. But anyway, it is a bit odd, you know, these two big name tournaments would take place almost perfectly at the same time. Though Maurice has been planning this far in advance. I guess the Isle of Man is also has its schedule. I remember being there, it was around the same time, in October probably. Queen d7. I have no idea how strong this guy is, although I did lose a strange game in one of my streams, not streams, one of my simuls. In one of my simuls to a player, I think from Romania, who played the same formation for black. Yeah, he's got this system kind of worked out here for black. It's not a great line. The closed Sicilian is kind of like, you know, makes you... It's a tough opening to play against. It's very solid, pretty boring, honestly. Now he could play knight takes... Maybe I'll take this bishop on e7 now. He could play knight takes knight and pawn takes and bishop f7 there. So maybe we'll play for the bishop pair in this position. But it looks like this is going to degenerate into a blitz game. basically. Black seems pretty strong. I have no idea how strong. I don't really like playing unrated players. That's why we play only... we're playing only unrated games in the stream. One of the reasons. Other than the fact that we also like tell people what we're thinking while we're playing. Will you be playing the yearly classical tournament? It starts at 7 o'clock tonight. I honestly didn't know about it till just now this morning. So I didn't have a plan one way or the other. Probably not. I'm really tired. I do a lot of lessons and stuff, and the week is really kind of difficult for me. So I'm like, wow, tonight I actually might play some games. But I don't think I'm going to play like, you know, every round. Jeroen, so I think I'll play some games, maybe a few games in that, but I don't see myself, you know, playing a lot of rounds. Okay, there I could have like tried to win a pawn, but now see down. I mean, this looks a little artificial. He's got all these pieces sort of flirting around there. He's got some threats, perhaps. I'm gonna overprotect the G3 point. My strong point is F4. If we look at it from the Petrosian sort of standpoint here, we got the F4 strong point. Jeroen, you're used to that. White's position very solid. Black piece coordination looks a little awkward, actually. Knight H6, yeah. But what threat does Black have here? No threats. That's the problem. Black has no threats. Going A to E1. With all those pieces there, there's still no threats. Actually, I could have taken on E5, maybe. Again, I said that, but I'm not sure. He has discoveries too, so it's not so easy. Now, I see what I should do here, but it's a little bit tricky. He has some threats, actually. I have to be careful. It's not true he has no threats. White has to be a little bit careful here. It's a kind of coffee house variation for Black, but Black seems to know what he's doing. Now, this is a crazy move, E4. Wow, what is this about? Suspicious. The move looks a little suspicious. Putting up my bishop on G2. I mean C3. So maybe I just play like Rook D1 now? I could take on E4, actually. Opening up his bishop on E6. Or just play knight to D4. No, that can't hang my G3 pawn. This is very interesting. Very cagey play by Black. Doesn't seem completely correct from a positional standpoint, but he's got very concrete tactical threats. If I make one slip, my kingside falls apart. Have to be careful here. My last move, rook on AE1, maybe seemed to make some sense, but now I have to go back to rook D1. This rook should probably be on G1. This is what I'd like to play, actually. Rook G1, overprotect G3. Black, I mean, I didn't like taking on E4. Pawn takes E4. I like it from the pawn structure standpoint, but he really starts to have a lot of threats. Maybe I should have done it, though. there's not anything concrete he could do. You know, I kind of wish I had taken there. Probably not too late. Not too late to take on e4. And now what? The c file. Maybe bishop e5. Rook g1. Knight d4 isn't possible. So I've got to be prepared to defend g3 again. Black's pieces are not that flexibly placed. So if his attack doesn't come through, these knights are on the side of the board. Pawn structure wise better for white here. But it's scary, all these pieces hovering around my king, admittedly. I don't see anything concrete for black, fortunately. Now knight there. Could even play g4 potentially. He's trying to set up knight g5, it looks like, on my queen, or maybe knight d6. Knight d6 is not a big deal. Queen e1. This is strong. He didn't even flinch, but instantly played rook h6. I didn't have time to play bishop b4, which was my idea, but now we have time finally. I've been trying to play this for a couple moves. Still doesn't win though. Or it does win, because yeah, it decoys him away from g5. So he has to lose the exchange now. But this was a scary game. I was really kind of feeling like it was touch and go for a while there. I could easily lose in one move. Black with menacing threats. Pawn spanker. Pawn spanker. 5-5. This is blitz. d3. Why not d4? Man, when did I play d3? It's a long time ago. You're looking forward to the World Championship match. Let me check my stream here. Are we still good? My stream was malfunctioning there. I am white every game. Okay, guys. That's cool. We're going to play g3. If you guys want to be white and want me to be white every game, it's fine by me. I'm going to play the English opening. Where is everybody? Just 38 viewers. Come on. Let's wake it up. And bring your friends and family. Knight f6. And it's an English... I was angry with Pawn Spanker for playing a silly opening in my simul, but I'll forgive him. C takes d, knight takes d5. Standard opening here. It was a kind of scary position, Zeus. I agree. I had to be very, very careful. Black obviously has honed this system he's playing into a kind of weapon. Not to be trivialized. Black's setup there. I've seen some players play this line with white. The German international master George Zuhl, I knew, and he was playing this kind of setup with white sometimes. like a closed Sicilian type formation with f4, d3, and it's not that silly. In fact, I mean, I think there have been like New in Chess yearbook articles about it. But I mean, that's with white. Now with black, it's a little bit a different story. You're playing this formation a tempo down, so I don't think it's, you know, quite as good. But why not? You know, it's a closed position. Color was randomly selected. That's what they all say. You guys are losing your credibility. All right, Nurwal. What's up, Nurwal? Wall from Fix. 97. That's a passive-looking move, but in these structures, sometimes like black does play knight b6 to kind of block the pressure on the b file. So it's not without, you know, probably not without some kind of basis. Knight to d7. Generally speaking, I mean, knight takes e3. This is a variation that the Fidelity Mach 3 Master played back in like 1986. You know, I mean, knight takes c3, b takes c3. It's a little early to be making that move. You know, you want some kind of concrete reason to do that. I mean, like after knight d5, knight c3. I mean, if the knight was on f3, you could play knight takes c3, b takes c3, e4, and force me to go back to g1 or something like that. I would like it better, but here it just looks like probably good for white now. But how to set up? I mean, knight f3, e4 could be totally legit because I don't have queen a4 check. It also blocks queen a4 check and like win the pawn on e4 tricks. So I can't play knight f3 without allowing e4. So I think the sensible move is probably d3. Waste a lot of time. What happens if your opponent is watching your channel and comes to know all your strategies? Well, it takes a lifetime to learn all of someone's strategies in the game of chess. So I'm not too worried if he learns one or two. Chess is too infinite for that, and it takes a lifetime. What is that saying? It takes a day to learn, but a lifetime to master. But you know, we're playing unrated games, so it's all fun. I mean, even if it was rated, it's an internet rating. It's not like my official world ranking is at stake. But if you want to tune out the stream, I mean, actually, Lord Alamo brought this up. You guys, you know, if you're playing me and you want to concentrate and not, you know, have help by listening to me, you know, turn down the volume when you're actually playing against me. That's something that a lot of people do. Pawn spanker now with bishop c5. It looks a little weird, this formation of black's pieces, you have to admit. You'll probably lose on time if you relied on that, considering the delay. The last position was kind of scary, I admit. I'm not really thrilled with my setup against that formation. h6, stopping knight g5. Pawn spanker has this weird, tricky style. But h6, it's a pawn weakness. You know, that could be costly later on. We've already got the... I turned it the Uvian pawn majority, or central pawn preponderance. 4 against 3 in the center. Because of black's exchange, knight takes c3, b takes c3. Don't do that. It's not good. Don't take on c3 in the Sicilian. In most cases, it's not good. So, Dutch guy said that. So it has to be right. d4. I'm talking about former world champion Uwe's Middle Game series, one of my favorite books. Bishop to b6. And it's not necessary for me to play e4. It's kind of a gut reaction, but Really not necessary here. I have better things to do with my time. So bishop a3, man. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Just kidding. Haha. I laugh at my own jokes. Alright, c5, it's kind of forced. Kind of forced. Maybe you are going somewhere. You can get away with that. But White's position is... White's advantage strategically here is, well, significant, to say the least. Do we want to lock it up or not? This is a big question. Really big question here. I'm like thinking about delaying the locking it up with d5 and e4. Playing more flexibly. Saronche said, yeah, there's a PDF of it online. Middle game, book 1 and book 2. He talks about the pawn preponderance. It's a concept that we like a lot. So now pawn spanker took on d4, and well, his pawn is pinned to his rook on f8. What's up with that? It's not an issue. It's a non-issue. Maybe it really is a non-issue. Pawn spanker is... He's a tricky guy, man. He's kind of scaring me. Now maybe knight d2. We want to strengthen the pressure on c5. I mean, we could play d5 and unleash the pawn. Unleash the pawn chain. But pawn spanker, I think he's a tricky guy and he's very dangerous, especially tactics. He sees some tactics. He turned around a terrible position against me in the simul on Sunday. Guys, every stream I do a simul 6:30 p.m. on Sundays on lichess. 6:30 p.m. Central Eastern, whatever. Central European summertime. Central Eastern. Eastern Central. Not Eastern Central. Be careful. You can't find any good info on it online. Max Wave of boxed in the amateurs and won some European title. Wow, that's amazing. This is a really ballsy move by pawn spanker. But I don't think that can really be fully sound. We're going to interpose this move first of all. I don't want this pawn to hit my knight with tempo on d2. Then we're going to sneak a rook on f8. And I think the maximum that pawn spanker will extract from this is like a pawn for the exchange or something, which shouldn't really be enough. Now, is there any sense in playing bishop d6? Maybe. Maybe it's a good move. I mean, to get him away from my, get him away from the d pawn, basically. Intermezzo. Stay away from this. Get him away from the d pawn so I can pick it up. Important in-between move. %69% of GM. That's like, I'm probably something in that neighborhood too. I feel like, but nothing to show for it. Bishop takes f8. We got to like 2470 FIDE. I'm just your average international master now. Life is cruel. King takes f8 and we get this pawn. You don't even get a pawn for it. This is just a clean, beautiful position. Keep it simple or go for more. Knight c5 is tempting. Then part of me just wants to simplify since I'm up the exchange. I think this is... Knight c5 is aggressive, but what's my idea here? Just to, well, look, it denies that bishop on b6. It puts pressure on b7. You can't argue with it. It's got to be a good move. And now we've got ways to increase the pressure, so to speak. Maybe rook c1. Yeah, pawn spanker is... He's an aggressive dude. I really want to stay in touch with my... pawn on d4. And pawn spanker is this guy who... It's been really annoying for me to play against him in my simul because he's one of these guys who almost uses the increment as a sort of deceptive weapon. Like, he purposely seems to always be on the verge of losing on time. But he never actually loses on time. It's a kind of trick. I think it's like a psychological weapon. Because you're constantly thinking, I'm going to win on time, I'm going to win on time. But you never actually win on time against pawn spanker. It just doesn't happen. Let's just simplify here. It's just a fantasy. If you think you're going to win on time against pawn spanker, you've got another thing coming. He never loses on time. He's always in totally desperate incremental time trouble. But now you're hanging a rook, dude. Now you've gone a step too far. This time you've gone too far. Alright. We got revenge for the simul. Alright, King Wiki's up next. If you guys lose your challenge, IMs are potential GMs. If you lose your challenge, let me know on the Twitch stream. Let me or Jeroen, our moderator here, know that you lost your challenge, and we'll put you back in line. So I'm just assuming that we're good to go here. Camel Culture is next. Azim Lisutari Aprili. Sida's re-challenging me, but I can't really play like more than one game against the same opponent. We don't have that many games. So maybe tomorrow we'll be back 10 a.m. CEST. Alright, so 69% of GM. Alright, well, you're last in the list at the moment. You'll probably get to play. King Wiki. We're black, yes! Finally black. Wow. Somebody let the troll down. We've been white for like 15 games in a row. And I think that people were inadvertently continuing to troll me today. Yesterday the joke was, during my Weird Wednesday stream, that they would secretly, everybody secretly would like ask for black against me, and I didn't know what was going on. So now the gig is up. The jig is up. Did you ever play against Ben Feingold? Yeah, not really a lot. I have 2 games against Feingold. One was like at the U.S. Championship in 2001, where I was white and I got some sort of Slav, where I was white, and it was a draw. And then I played him again in the World Open, and the story is one I can't tell everything, but basically I had a big advantage. I had like, well, clear advantage. I was, what's h4 about? I was up a pawn against Feingold at the World Open, but something came up, and I mean, Ben didn't know what was going on, but something came up, so in the middle of the game I offered a draw when I was just up a pawn, and it's kind of a personal thing I can't really talk about, but I couldn't continue the game. I needed to go do something, so I don't say I'm winning that game. I mean, I'm not claiming I was winning. You know, I was up a pawn, but Feingold, you know, he maybe had a little bit of compensation. He didn't play really well, but I'm not going to say like I gave him a draw in a winning position or something. I was up a pawn. It was kind of complicated, but I had to do something and offered him a draw. So that's a complicated personal story I can't really go into here on the stream. That was back in like 2006, I think. Decided to play c5. I want to play. I mean, Feingold was probably confused. Honestly, he was probably thinking, "Why is Bill offering me a draw when he's like up a pawn?" But honestly, it was like a lot of pieces on the board and stuff. It probably would have been a really, really long game had I not offered a draw. So, who knows what would have happened. But considering all the tournaments that Feingold played and all the tournaments that I played, I'm surprised I didn't play him more. Back in the day, I didn't play Feingold prior to 2001, which is sort of surprising because, you know, that's like 10 years of active tournament play as a master, and I never got paired with Feingold once until like 2001. Any chance of a match against John Bartholomew? I don't know. We'd have to ask him. I've never played any matches yet with other streamers. Not that I'm not open to the possibility. John, I don't really know him. He seems like a decent guy from what I've seen. I think I would like him. Of the streamers I know, he seems pretty good. E4 here now. King Wiki. What do we do now? We're trying to punish this H4. I would be okay with a match with John Bartholomew. E4. Open the position here. Queen A5 is interesting. I'm not sure what it does though after like Bishop D2. Well, actually, I have used this kind of idea before. Similar positions actually. Queen A5 has some benefits to it, but I'm not really convinced. Queen A5, Bishop D2, pawn takes D4 or something. I'm not sure what really benefit I'm deriving from that. Alright, I'm just going to play normal moves. I don't think the H4 is going to be a good thing for white, really. But I feel like this move may have been a little bit... Maybe this is too conciliatory or something, I don't know. CD may not be the most incisive move for me there. Queen A5, Bishop D2, I didn't see anything. I mean, you could play H5 here for black, and I wouldn't complain that it was a horrible move. But it feels like black should play somehow trying to take advantage of H4, trying to take advantage principally of H4. And I was trying to open the position, but I'm not really ahead in development, so maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. None of my moves are bad. Knight C6 is okay, but I think I prefer Bishop D7 just to make sure there's no funny business with our friend Knight takes C6 and B takes C6. I'm just delaying the castling. I'm afraid of losing viewers to stronger players. What do you mean? Too bad Chess Network won't do any dual commentary streams. Chess Network, well, I mean, you know, I don't really like the fact that Chess Network is anonymous. I wouldn't want to do a dual comment. I wouldn't do a dual commentary with somebody who is anonymous. I would only do it with someone who's open about their identity for sure. That's definitely one of my requirements. I mean, I realize that the person has a kind of internet identity going on, but I want to know who I'm playing against. Bishop E2, Knight F6. Pretty speculative pawn sacrifice. I'm not castled here, so I don't think that white has enough compensation. Okay, it's creative and it might work against the average player. I think it's a little bit dubious to sack this pawn. I would like it better if your pawn was back on C2, you know, in a kind of normal dragon situation. I don't think that it's really like, I think it's asking a little bit much. In a Marazzi type of formation, to do this violent pawn sacrifice is, you're kind of asking for too much of your position. You want all the space, but you want to play like it's a sharp, open, like dragon at the same time. And it's kind of like, as they say, mixing two plans. So white is trying for too many things at the same time here. Bronx Defense, he said he's not anonymous, it's Gerald by you. But I mean, this is like, been a thing that's been like ongoing for years that people were like not sure. So maybe it's been figured out, but I mean, basically he wasn't certain who it was for a long time is all I'm saying. I don't know. I don't follow Chess Network. I'm not like one of those people who is interested in the guy. It's not that big a deal to me. It's some kind of national master from Pennsylvania, supposedly. But I'm totally open to dual commentary streams. So if anybody wants to go behind the scenes and work out a deal where I play another player, I'm open to that kind of thing. Knight to c6. But I said this before, that if Chess Network is that guy, I actually did play that guy at a tournament years ago in Pennsylvania in the World Open, I think, or some tournament at the Adams Mark Hotel back in like 1999 or 2000 or 2001 at the latest. Somewhere around that, the millennium, I played this guy that many people claim is Chess Network. I don't remember if I lost or drew, but it was a much lower rated player, and I was really bummed that I didn't win, and I can't remember if I lost or drew. But either way, like the result was like first round, and I was paired down 200 points against somebody, and it was like I didn't win, and I was really upset about it. But I honestly spaced on what actually happened. I don't remember. I might have lost. It might have been a draw. But either way, it was a bad result for me. One of those days, I talk about the score sheets in the closet. I will find my games. I've got this one game against Edward Gufeld that I totally can't find, and I'm really, really upset about it because Gufeld was a legendary player, and it'd be good to publish. There's games I have that I'd like to find that I can't find that I should publish, actually. Hopefully I still have time. But yeah, that goes in the file of games I need to find for media purposes. Knight g4. So we're just leaving the king in the center. White's down a pawn and doesn't really have any compensation for it. But as I said, the lesson is here that you can't play too aggressively, in the Marazzi like it's a normal dragon. I just want to make sure, and we got to be a little careful with like knight to d5 here. Got queen takes b2. And Lord Alamo will appreciate this move because yesterday we kind of like lost a piece like this with white. So basically the knight on c3, rook on a1. Lord Alamo, this one is for you. White is going to lose a piece. This way, excuse me guys, I resized the board there. He gets a check on c7, but he's losing the whole rook on a1. So DD Meltzer said there's an excellent Goofeld video on YouTube. Very cool. Yeah, Goofeld was a character. I never spent too much time with Big Eddie. I did play him twice though, and I'm proud to have a +1 in 2 games with Black and the Sicilian. Goofeld was renowned. Well, King Wiki here. What's the material here? Even material. Bishop c3 check. Does that help me to play bishop c3 check? It probably kind of debatable. I should play king b8, win a piece. We win a piece. I don't know about that. Why not just take the pawn? Okay. Once I was Black against Goofeld in a Kiri's attack, it was very, very scary, and I nearly lost, but somehow I managed to hang on. He played kind of like Karpov style. And in the second game, I won a really nice game against him in a Richter Rouser. And that's the game I really want to find. Actually, I'd like to find them both, but God, I hope I haven't lost these games forever. I never really logged my games very carefully. But I never threw them away or anything. You see people who like throw away their game scores from games they lost and stuff. I mean, I would never like toss out my game score or something. So they're all there somewhere, hopefully. Guys, we have a stream tomorrow, Friday at 10 a.m. CEST. We have Sunday Simul at 6:30 p.m. CEST on Sunday. That would be Sunday. Anyway, King Wiki here, playing on Out of Momentum. We're doing good today. We've got 4 challenges at the moment. Camel Culture, Azim Sutari, Aprili, and 69% of GM. And that will possibly do it for today, but we might be able to squeeze out one more game. No guarantees. Passed pawn. What's that? He decided, what are you talking about? Hari Shiva. Oh, this guy. So the Chess Network played a Millionaire Chess last week, but didn't score well. Tal Baron does dual commentary too. He charges $600 an hour for lessons. What is it? I'm just joking. I don't know. Somebody said he's charging $600 a month for lessons. Well, if Chess Network or whatever played in the Millionaire Chess tournament, I mean, you can't expect too much from somebody who like hasn't played an over-the-board tournament in years or whatever. Trust me. I mean, I know it's a really tough thing to do. To come back if you haven't played in a long time. Although I never stopped like completely. Since I was playing poker between like 2009 and 2015, even when I never played any tournaments, I still had, between like 2011 and 2015, I still played maybe 8, 9, 10 games a year in the Hungarian Team Championship. So I never actually stopped playing over the board entirely, even when I wasn't doing chess full time. I had at least 8 or 9 games per year. So I can't imagine quitting and not playing a single game for a whole year. Now I haven't played since June in a tournament game, which is a really, really huge layoff since the end of June. I've got a team match on Sunday. By the way, I didn't bring it up. Maybe I'm repressing it or something. What's up here? I'm not allowed to play that. I'm probably going to play a strong IM, or pretty strong IM, with my rating or higher on Sunday in the Hungarian, not Hungarian League, but it's like a Budapest Team Championship first round. The word on the street was that I'm going to play Tot Ervin, who is actually a friend of mine. Not a really close friend, but a friend. He's a good guy. He's like 2450 IM, so it's going to be a good game. And I guess I might have white, since I get white every game. Tot Ervin and I have a funny score because we played twice, and both games were the same exact thing. When we were white, we had an overwhelmingly crushing position against the other guy and lost. When he was white, he had an overwhelming position and lost against me. And when I was white, I had an overwhelming position and lost to him. So I don't know if that bodes well for my playing white against Tot Ervin on Sunday. But you never know for sure. If you play one of these team championships or something, maybe he's sick, can't play, I end up playing someone else. It's always kind of tough. Here, King Wiki doesn't really seem like he likes resigning too much. I could have taken his rook though. That probably would have killed his spirit if I played bishop takes b1. Alright, man, thanks for the game. Camel Culture. Well, Camel Culture's 2100. We haven't had too many high-rated players today. Oh, you guys are talking about no, Justice Bot played. Alright, my bad. That makes sense. More sense. Yeah, okay, so not Chess Network. So Justice Bot played in Millionaire Chess. Okay, now I understand. Well, Justice Bot, yeah, he's played tournaments. Okay, now I'm believing that. I'm believing that more likely. Justice Bot. Well, Justice Bot, he seems like he's a really good blitz player. I'm not sure how strong he is, you know, over the board. Knight to c6. Being a really good internet blitz player doesn't necessarily carry over to being a really good tournament player. I think it's better to have the strength of being a strong tournament player first, and then hone your blitz skills later. My whole argument here when I do my streams is that I really preach to people to learn to take their time and to play long games and really think, you know. Camel Culture played e6, and there's a d4 gambit here, which I guess that's kind of like main line. But I got in trouble against Scheveningen. One game I remember losing to him. I don't really know the theory that well after d4. So maybe we'll play something quieter for white. h4, yeah, h4 not good there, online wiki. There are a lot of scam artists, and some of them are grandmasters. But I don't know, you know, I don't know Tao Baron, so maybe he's legit. There are some players who are like specializing in training strong players, but I don't think he's pretty young to be like selling himself on that. So I don't know. If I was 2600 plus, I definitely want someone with a little more experience to be my openings coach than like a 20-year-old GM. But who knows? I mean, there's a lot of very strong opening experts these days. But you've got to learn how to teach people, and that's a skill in itself. So Camel Culture goes with d5. This is probably best. I never really believe that white gets any advantage in this line. So I think that the gambit with d4 is, objectively the gambit with d4 here is the critical try. But I just wanted to kind of keep the pieces on the board, and even if I allow black to equalize, it's not a sin. I used to play this with black too, Camel Culture. It's a good line for black. It's very solid, and I fully have played both sides of this position. Sweerts is very young too. Well, I mean, we know Sweerts is strong. I did a video series for chesslecture.com about the Polish Championship, where all these young players were very impressive. So he's just one of like 4 or 5 extremely strong Polish GMs that are under, you know, the age of 27 or so. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of really, really strong young Polish GMs out there, and Swierdz made a good decision to play in the Millionaire Chess Tournament. It was kind of weak. I mean, if Adiban is the strongest player in the field, you know, it's a kind of, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of weird that the Millionaire Chess Tournament and the Isle of Man thing took place at the same time. That's not really good for either one. Those tournaments overlapping, it's a clear conflict, and chess tournament organizers have a hard enough time finding strong players. So when you're organizing a major tournament like that, you don't want it to take place at the same time as another major tournament, you know. That's not good. So both sides like lost some players to the other tournament, but it seems like Isle of Man had a lot more sponsorship, so they paid all these high-profile players to play, got a lot more attraction, and Atlantic City, I think, was kind of a bad call on Maurice's part. You know, I mean, all the time I was basically, you know, from the beginning I said Atlantic City is not a place I want to go. I was going to go if it was Vegas. I had already gone on record as saying I was going to play in the Millionaire Chess Open if it was in Vegas again, but because Maurice moved it to Atlantic City, I'm from New Jersey. I mean, I know what Atlantic City is like. It's not a fun place to spend time, so I was pretty bummed when he announced it was moved to Atlantic City. Bronx Defense says if I had, he doesn't care if you have kids. That's nice, thank you. I don't care if you have kids either. No, seriously, my philosophy about, you know, kids and chess. I mean, I teach, not currently, but I have done a lot of teaching of kids in the schools. I've also met a lot of really asinine parents who like force their kids to play chess, turn them into like monsters. Recently in Zalakaros, I met the parents of a kid from Austria who were like horrible monsters and had no idea how to behave at a chess tournament. These really pushy people who just have no clue, you know, about etiquette and how to behave. I don't really believe in forcing kids to learn the game of chess. I mean, I think it's something that should be like they want to do it, you know. And with my own kids, I'd prefer to wait until they're a little bit older. You know, in my case, I didn't start playing until I was like 11. I don't think it's good for you, you know, to do anything like really intensively such a young age that you become like obsessed about that one thing, you know. Just chess, you know, it's not really good psychologically. It doesn't have to be just chess too, any sport. I mean, it's too much pressure on a really, really little kid, I think. So it's got to be fun, and they've got to really want to do it. And, you know, a lot of parents, like the Polgar family, I mean, the kids were like kind of forced into chess. And I'm not sure if they developed the rest of their lives, you know, really in a healthy way. So, yeah, I'm definitely of the opinion that kids should not be forced to play chess when they're really little. It's better to wait a while. I don't really subscribe to starting them with like 4 years old and stuff. It's better to be well-rounded and learn a lot of different stuff. Camel Culture, I really like the way he's played this game. It's pretty flawless, I would say. I'm going to play A3. I don't know, sorry. I don't know internet. I don't care. I'm just kidding. Yeah, care starts with a C, right? But it's like away from computer. I think that's the thing that confused me. AFK, you know. AFK is... Why is it AFK? Why is it not AFC? And that's why Bronx Defense. I thought you don't care. I don't care either. No, I'm just kidding. It's all good. But seriously, why is it AFK? It's totally inconsistent. You don't know. IDK. I didn't know that was like an internet. That's how out of date I am. I didn't know that was like an abbreviation for I don't know. A3, yeah, I'm really up to date with internet slang. But I've just seen too many monster parents put a lot of pressure on their little kids, you know. And the Austrian parents that I saw in Zalakaros were like unbelievable monsters. And the kid was like normal and nice, but how long is he going to remain like that, you know, with these like monstrous parents putting pressure on him? You know, it was just like gross to see this. So I mean, it's just a matter of time till they like destroy him and turn him into an arrogant monster like themselves. He was playing against a friend of mine, and the parents were just behaving like monsters. The kid was fine. He was a little bit nervous and jumpy, but he was behaved well. Yeah, I'm definitely not a big believer in teaching kids when they're not, you know, not ready for it. And kids need to be balanced and do other stuff, not just chess. It's not enough, you know. You may end up with no fashion sense. Like some, you know, for example, your fashion sense might be like retarded for the rest of your life if you play just chess. I can think of some examples. I'm not going to say who I'm talking about, but I don't want to hurt any major chess players' feelings, but social skills need to be developed. So too many chess players neglect the other things in life that are important. And chess should just be a part of your life, but not your entire life. Night on Pre says, BTW, I hate abbreviations. Yeah, it's not because they're Austrian, it just happened that they were Austrian. Austrian people are no different than anyone else. I just cited that example. I shouldn't even mention where they're from because it doesn't have any bearing on the story. But the problem was I couldn't communicate with them because they didn't speak Hungarian or German, and it was very awkward. I mean, they didn't speak Hungarian or English, and they spoke just German, but I don't speak German, so I was kind of in trouble, and I was very angry with their behavior toward my friend, who didn't do anything wrong. They were really disrespectful. Man, we have some tactics here that almost work, but I just wanted to cite it as an example of chess parents. You know, what kind of monsters I've seen are just unbelievable. Knight g5 here. Knight g5 is okay, actually. Damn. Knight g5. Knight g5 is not working, is it? Camel Culture has less time than me. Knight g5 unfortunately allows queen e5. He has this defense because his bishop is protected by his knight. I could play knight b5 first. Knight b5 first. Looks okay. Kind of obvious, isn't it? You guys hear the construction, don't worry about it. They're not tearing down my house. It's not too loud, though. You should hear it downstairs. It's very, very annoying. I wouldn't want to be playing a tournament game with the sound. Chess parents are worse than the kids. 9 out of 10 times. My own kids encourage them to play, but I wouldn't force them to play, and I certainly would encourage them if they really like it, you know. But forcing what you like on other people isn't my thing. I mean, my parents didn't play chess. They didn't know anything about chess. Queen b8, though, I missed that. That's a nice move. Though we have still knight g5 here. Knight g5 makes it difficult for black. But still, he's... still got defenses. Yeah, it's not that convincing. I mean, knight g5. Actually, maybe it is good. We'll try it. A parent at a USCF followed my brother around, harassing him. Oh man, yeah, there's all kinds of cases like that. It's like unbelievable. People are unbelievable. Yeah, it happens all the time, this sort of behavior. Chess parent stalkers. Well, camel culture is kind of coming apart here. Well, e5. Rook d7 strongly suggests itself. I don't see a forced win. Knight e6 check. Knight e6 check looks kind of nasty, actually. I think I'm having hallucinations again. But knight e6 check. Simply knight e6 check. Maybe this is good. This really... I think I'm hallucinating again. We are having hallucinations again, but this is good enough. Camel culture, a good opening, but somewhere you lost the thread there. Azim Lee Soitari, 69% of GM. Ninju. Looks like those 3 games are for sure. And then, yeah, I didn't mean to discriminate against Austrians. I wish I could identify these people. They were such monsters, but I prefer not to do that. Knight f3. We're going to play knight f3. Anyway, Andrea, I'm hoping, yeah, Kamsky's father, of course, is renowned. The renowned chess parent. Punching Shabalov was his crowning moment. I'm sure he's done lots of other stuff, too. A very intellectual guy, Kamsky's father. Knight f3. Roman used to tell me how he would try to tell them what Kamsky should play. You know, this is the best part. Rustam would actually try to influence like their choice of openings and stuff. This guy who was like not even an expert, not even close to being like a candidate master. I mean, he was just a total amateur. He was actually trying to tell them like what openings Gata should play. This is complete crazy man. Okay, e6 now. Azim Lee Soitari. The other day he played the King's Indian, which was weird. I've never seen Azim Lee Soitari play King's Indian. But I've told him here on the stream that he needs to learn openings, because otherwise his game is pretty good. William, this night will you play in yearly? Thursday night. I've had a really hard week, so I'm not going to play that whole tournament. You know, I have stuff. I have to do the stream on Friday morning and stuff, but tomorrow, that is. I think I'll play a few games, though. Maybe I'll play 2 or 3 games in the yearly. Check it out. See what's happening. Knight c3. Now b6. This is typical Azim Lee Soitari. Leaving book at an early stage, but like kind of playable move. Very early b6. I don't think I can refute this move, you know? It practically like transposes to Petrosian Queen's Indian, just that I haven't had to play the wasteful move A3. And A3 is the move in the Queen's Indian on 4 A3 to prevent bishop B4. But oftentimes A3 ends up being kind of a cost of time, and also weakening like the B3 square. May seem like a small deal, but it can be very relevant later on. So the weakening of some squares and the loss of a tempo makes the Petrosian variation for black kind of like pretty playable. But I would think here I've got like a Petrosian Queen's Indian where I didn't have to play A3, and that's pretty good. I'm threatening to win a pawn or devastate his pawn structure right now, so he has to be careful immediately. I think the natural move is good for black. You talk a bit about the psychology of chess, said Lord Alamo. If I'm on a win streak, I'll do good, but some days look like I'm just losing everything. Any tips on getting out of a bad zone? That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned in my coaching profile that I'm very interested in psychology and chess, and this is true. Here now, black loses a piece to Queen A4 check. Bishop B7 is necessary there for black. So getting out of a losing streak, yeah, I mean, I talked about this in terms of Gelfand losing 5 games in a row at the recent tournament, the Tal Memorial. Very, very unusual kind of thing would happen where Gelfand, such a solid player as Boris Gelfand, a player who doesn't really take, more risks than the average player, would lose 5 games in a row. I mean, how does that happen? Well, he's playing against top-notch opposition, but also, I think, at some point, after you lose 2 or 3 games, you start to go on tilt. I mean, if we borrow from poker terminology, the concept of tilt, we define tilt as coming from the pinball game, when we get so angry that we actually shake the machine goes on tilt, it's called, and starts to malfunction, and everybody knows that you were shaking the pinball machine and whatnot. So they kick you out of the arcade for abusing the machine. That's where tilt, the origin of tilt, comes from. Now it's used in poker terminology. People say going on tilt. So I think that part of it is that we start playing differently. That's what happens. When you start losing, you start playing differently, and you don't even realize it. But I was watching one of my students yesterday, checking some of his games that he played last week, and one day he played really well, and then it stops, and then he starts playing 2 days later, and I looked at his games and they were horrible. Every game he played that day was horrible. And of course the only explanation for this is that his mindset was different on one day than it was on the other day. And then this question of how that happens. Well, one day we may just be in a bad mood, or maybe we're just tired, or maybe we're angry about something. And so, he starts playing differently. I notice he starts sacrificing pieces when he doesn't normally do that, So this is the number one thing you can start to do. You just start playing differently. You start to take more risks. Your behavior is different. So recognizing that you're doing things differently is the first step. The second problem is losing self-confidence. When Boris Gelfand loses 5 games, when I lost 5 games, it happened to me one time, I started to totally tilt too. I lost my self-confidence. I started to play openings I didn't normally play. I think after losing 3 games, in game 4, I decided to play the Alekhines defense. And that was something that wasn't even a regular part of my repertoire. So I was so angry that I lost 3 games in a row, I started to do something irrational. So I think catching yourself, and just saying, keep control, return to kind of base. Find a way to kind of get yourself to return back to your baseline. That's the important thing. If you lose a lot of games, there's got to be a reason for it. I mean, it could be a coincidence. Just could be a coincidence that a bunch of your opponents played really well over the last period of time, but But I think it's usually, most cases, it's you are doing something different for whatever reason. Queen a4 check, picking up another piece. Azim Lisotari, again, today, not looking like himself. So he dropped a piece, and then that was it. But that's the problem with Azim Lisotari. Not knowing openings that well leaves him open to blunders, like dropping that piece on a4 in that game. So he needs to work on his opening theory. I'm not a big promoter of opening theory being the most important thing or phase of the game, but you do have to have a certain amount of knowledge, and I think the rest of Azim Lisotari's game is good. He's very good tactically. He has some positional sense, but the opening knowledge is not enough. 69% of GM, so we're cruising through the games. Andrea's going to get to play, maybe, if he's lucky. Being tired is what affects me most in my game, says Knight on Prees. Sports psychology for dummies. Interesting. Really comprehensive and helpful. I have to check it out. 60% of GM. I don't know if he's still here. He challenged me. Okay, we get to play black with e4, c5. I haven't played the Sicilian. I feel like part of my life has been empty over the last 2 days. I haven't played one game in the Sicilian with black. Yeah, actually, when I was really, really serious about chess, going back to my strongest point between, maybe it's not a coincidence that I got to my peak around 2001, because I was seeing a sports psychologist, a good one, in Boston between like 1999 and 2001, and I highly recommend it. I mean, this guy was a Harvard psychologist. He actually worked with a lot of pro like golf and tennis players, so I learned a lot. I learned a lot from those sessions, and I recommend, if you had the money. I mean, at the time, it was kind of tough. I couldn't really afford it, but I did it anyway, and went on. I saw him for 2.5 years, so it really helped me though. And also as a student of psychology, it was interesting for me to actually be a patient, working with a sports psychologist from the patient side. Highly recommend it if you're thinking about becoming a professional competitor in anything. Having a professional psychologist. I mean, there's no doubt that like the world champions in the Soviet time had Karpov, and Kasparov definitely had like psychologists, especially Karpov, had psychologists on his team. Nikolai Krogius wrote an interesting book on chess psychology, which I like. It's not like really well dated. It's pretty dated now, but the Krogius book on chess psychology is very serious. What's the most important part of chess? That you like and have fun, I think. That you enjoy it is the most important part of chess. Everybody sees chess in a different way, and I think that's what makes it cool. You know, for some people it's like an art. They see the, geometric beauty in it. I mean, for some people it's f3 is an interesting move. This is a strong move. 60% of GM. Okay, we don't know who this guy is. Another anonymous account. It's probably like a master strength player who just created a new account. F3 is a pretty advanced move. I think, whoops. I'm smelling a very strong player here. If you're playing f3, 69% of GM. f3 is a good move, I think, in particular against like rook c8 and bishop d7. Looks like a very sensible way for white here. e6, knight b5, and I've got problems with my pawn on d6. Now knight takes d4. Maybe knight takes d4, queen a5. Yeah, maybe I'm being too nice to this f3, but knight takes d4, queen a5, bishop somewhere. I'm not sure that queen a5 is even necessarily a good move. Kind of unusual move order here. f3 looks good for white. Looks very logical. There's no way to take advantage of this. It's probably been played. I mean, obviously it takes away the ability to play f4, but this is a different plan. White doesn't want to play f4. White will play like g4 later on, something like that. Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, queen a5, and then bishop d2 or bishop e3. Both seem reasonable. So a6 maybe. Just a flexible move. e4, e5, a3. Mangarini was a chessist and a psychologist. Yeah, I actually played Mangarini. I played Mangarini like back in 1987. Very, very recently. I lost. Mangarini didn't play the Mangarini variation. He played something like, I think he played e4, c5, knight f3, e6, c4. And I didn't really know how to react to this c4 line. I was an expert 2000 player. Mangarini was around like 2200. Something like that, I'm guessing. He was a solid master in his prime. Did you ever play Brian Wall? Yeah, unfortunately. Only one time, ironically, in a tournament game. I think it was just a quick draw. It was a Botvinnik variation of. I think I played white in a Botvinnik variation of the semi-Slav, which is really theoretical. I don't remember how it went down. I mean, it was like Brian and I weren't really friendly. I don't know why it was such a quick draw. I guess the position was just equal, and we agreed to a draw. I wasn't close friends with Brian Wall, although everybody gets along with him, and he's very jovial, and I like him. Later, I would work with him on Chess FM on ICC sometimes. But, yeah, it wasn't really a big deal, this one game I played with Brian. But he didn't play that often. He was usually living in the forest, homeless or something. He didn't have, a lot of money to pay entry fees to tournaments and stuff. It's not funny to laugh about someone being homeless, but in Brian's case, it's hard not to laugh about him, whatever he does, because he's such a funny guy. Now, h3, 69% of GM, playing h3 here. Well, I guess we have to follow through and play h4. C'est la vie. Zlatko Linčić, my good friend, is a big believer in h5 against everything. Recently, I saw him play it as early as like move 6 in a Sicilian, I think. We could take with a rook here, guarding d6. I mean, there's some argument here. This is not clear which way we should take back. No, I think we have to take back with the bishop now. You don't have to, but yeah, it feels right. A little more fundamental to take with the smaller piece, as usual. So, h5, h4. Brian Wall. Yeah, he was homeless for a while, and he was like living in the forest outside of Boston somewhere. Well, this has went on for a long time. He was happy though. He was like living his dream. It's crazy. He's not your average person. But I don't know him that well. I mean, And he didn't play that often. Played a lot more chess probably before I met him. But I've told the story about Michael Rode, you know, how he like called Michael Rode's flag down when it hadn't actually fallen on purpose to like make him freak out and lose on time. That was one of the funnier incidents I saw with Brian. And Michael Rode isn't really a very nice guy, so I wasn't particularly, you know, sorry for Rode when he lost on time against Brian after the resumption of the scandal. I remember once Michael Rode came to this chess club I went to, and he gave a simul to like 30 players, and like he just got tired and he didn't want to play anymore for this paid simul. So he just like decided he was going to start like adjudicating his own games at some point in the middle of the simul. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. You can't do that. I mean, you're paid to play like a 30 game simul, and everyone hated him after that. It was like, you're getting paid to play a simul. You play the simul. You don't like stop after 3 hours because you're tired and want to call games draws or whatever. So weird. A lot of stories though. I don't know if it's really worthy of a book or something, but someday I'll put all my stories down on paper. Hopefully we have a few yet to live out. Not that old yet. Oh, he's still around. I was thinking about Brian the other day. I wasn't sure if he was still playing or what. I guess he'll never quit as long as he's alive. Bishop d3 now. White, very professional play this game. Maybe knight d7. White starts to set up potential sacrifices, perhaps here. I would think king f8 might be a good prophylactic move, but I don't want to commit myself. I don't want to commit myself too early. Queen e5 looks a little weird. Maybe queen c7. Just kind of solid move. Really setting up those sacrifices on d5 again. Well, at some point white might shift to f4, and then we play a different strategy with black. But this guy is not a beginner. I mean, a very advanced sort of plan with f3. At least a candidate master type player. We would give white a provisional rating of 2100 FIDE. Fits the 2100 type. Stereotype. King f8. I don't want to abandon my h-pawn by castling. This also sidesteps some of the piece sacrifices with knight d5. We got to play like Zlatko. Zlatko very creative. Yeah, e5 is tempting, but I'm not sure I want to do that now. In this or not. Although it's certainly got to be okay to play e5 here. Yeah, I'm going to probably go with it. It looks like a Najdorf. Totally reasonable type of Najdorf position. You can castle by hand. Queen e3. Okay. King g6. Maybe I should have played queen b7 first. Whoops. Oh, we're going to play that now, I guess. Look how very safe white's playing. King b1. queen d2. Not sure what's up with queen d2. Wants to go back with bishop e3. Now what? Knight b3. We'll have to like re-establish my whole position, like bishop e6, because knight b3, knight a5. This is a very sophisticated player. I mean, no games, no rated games. Now he's coming with like knight b3, knight a5. That's pretty advanced. I have to be careful. Knight a2 now. Yeah, I'm afraid that knight h5 might be wrong here. Bishop d8 is kind of sophisticated. Najdorf maneuver, pretty typical. The bishop on d3. Can't put pressure on the d6 pawn. I like these new accounts that are created just to play in my stream. It's like, dude, he just made his account. I'm going to play with a different account today. I think we have to take here. And that's a very timely move. This f4. I can't allow f5. But I don't understand why knight b4 now. That's pretty advanced. No, I don't understand knight b4. Why not recapture on f4 right away? I'm surprised by that move. It's not a bad move. Look how sophisticated this positional maneuvering is from our opponent here. Bishop f6, I guess. Ooh, this could be dangerous. I don't understand that move. Queen takes d6 looks strong for white there. White is definitely not using a computer. He's given me like a second chance here when I thought he had a very strong queen takes d6. So it's definitely a human. He's made some mistakes. g5. Too hesitant though. He had this queen takes d6. What, you kind of like got bluffed there. Psychology of chess. He just believed me. Now knight f6. Rather than giving up my white squared bishop, it's maybe better to play knight f6 here. Don't have a lot of time. If I give up my white squared bishop, you know, there's no getting it back, and then I'm going to have like permanent weaknesses on the white squares for the rest of the game. Well, now we're thinking, well, maybe it's best to play like bishop f5, trade pieces here. Look at White's play, man. This guy is for real. Strong player, but just some minor inaccuracies. I have to be careful, you know. I'm up a pawn, but it's hard to use that extra pawn. There's two lines I could use. This file or the other file. My king's a little bit open. I guess I'm going to have to play f6. I don't really see a choice here. But this is a very serious player. I don't know. Again, I think he's around 2100, I would say. What we really want to do is trade queens into the ending. Queen g6. But specially created account to play us on the stream. Looks like Ninju is I'm gonna play e4. How many kids do you have? One of 6 years old, and then I have 2 kids. Yeah, one is 8 and one is almost 8. One is 6. But they both like know how to move the pieces. I don't like plan on like forcing them to play in chess tournaments unless they're really interested. e4. But sometimes I feel guilty that I don't teach them enough, but I don't want to force them. e4 Ninju, you're up. You're playing black. 69% of GM. Shut. That sounds familiar. Ninju's not here. We're going to give him like a minute to show up. So, I taught my kids how to play, but just the basics. And then if they want to go, they become interested at some point. I mean, so the chess is around me all the time, so later on, if my kids want to learn how to play, I mean, I would certainly encourage them. But I don't want to force it on them. e4, c5. Knight f3, mainline Sicilian. And then a6. The O'Kelly variation. The Belgian Grandmaster. First Belgian Grandmaster. He's quite a good player. d4 is not so great against the O'Kelly, so we have to play either c4 or c3. Those are the best lines. You hear the same noise in my apartment and in your stream. Yeah, it's called a pneumatic drill. Knight c6. We play a normal Marazzi type formation here. The problem is if I play knight c3 now, black could play e5. So I guess theoretically we have to play d4 straight up. If we want to play a proper Marazzi, we need to play it right away. Seem paranoid to assume that account is created just for your stream and not just due to lichess? Well, I'm half joking when I say that, but no, it's not paranoid because we've had like one particular player who I suspect of doing it on a regular basis. I wouldn't say it's paranoid. I mean, when this one person is clearly doing it, that doesn't mean that this account is. I'm just saying that it's a possibility. Not specifically for just playing me, but there are a number of accounts that only play in my stream and some bullet chess, and I sort of, you know, I'm pretty sure they're the same person. They all play the similar style, similar time usage, you know, so paranoid, yeah. Well, paranoid is relative. I'm definitely a little on the paranoid side, but we had a discussion about that recently, and I think paranoia is something that's necessary to human survival, probably, in some form. G6, and so we've got the Dragendorf, against the Marazzi, but reasonable. A6 isn't so bad. I'm half joking when I say that, but this player fits the same exact profile of the other accounts that I've noticed springing up lately. So there's a good chance that I'm right. There's a good chance that I'm paranoid, but hard to say. It's probably about 50-50. Bishop e3. You don't want to be like that teacher in Searching for Bobby Fischer. You mean Bruce Pandolfini character? Well, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the teacher. I mean, in a sense, I am like that teacher. He wasn't teaching his own kids. He was teaching other people's kids. E6. But I mean, as a teacher, you want to teach kids who learn. I mean, there's nothing worse than like this time that I quit. I had the student. It was like a rich kid whose parents, you know, I guess I don't know how they discovered chess, but they figured chess would be good for their kid, and they were paying me really well. But after like a few lessons, I realized the kid was not interested. He was just like staring at the clock during the lessons and stuff. So I just quit. You know, I was like, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't quit. I mean, I know a lot of chess teachers, and they like getting paid, and they would just continue forever. But I just said, look, I'm not going to do this anymore because your child doesn't want to learn how to play chess. He's just like watching the clock when we do the lessons. So I turned down a really good job, you know, where these people were paying me a lot of money just because I'm not going to teach someone who doesn't want to learn. Not just for the money. I don't want to just collect the money. I have better things to do with my time. So I really ask that if people are interested in lessons, it's or their kids are, you know, for their kids, that the kids have to want to do it, you know. Man, the pneumatic drill. But that's it. We have to live with the construction noises. I don't know how long it's going on, but it's not too bad, actually. It's much louder. It's actually coming from down, and if you go down on the floor below where I'm streaming, it's much louder downstairs, so I'm lucky that it's not louder than it is. Alright guys, it's time for one more game at the maximum. We're going to be streaming tomorrow, Friday, at 10 a.m. again. And it's my last day before my night off, and Saturday's mostly a day off for me. So it's fun to have some time off, but I might play some games in the classical yearly tournament if everybody is curious. Sunday I'm going to do my simul on lichess at 6:30 p.m. CEST. We'll be back on Monday again for more weekly streams. And don't forget to check out my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to try to upload my lecture about my Sunday simul review. Bishop d7. We had one player asking me if I could do a Sunday simul review, reviewing games from that event. Bishop d7. So d6 is very weak here. It's hard for black to defend that point. Also, anybody who supports the stream with PayPal donations, much appreciated. I'm basically doing this since March, and we're trying to grow it, and anything you can do to support the stream, even $5 a year, makes a big difference, and I appreciate it, guys. Everyone who's donated and supported me is awesome. So d6 is falling. We've got c5 here, immediately winning material. Looks like black might have some tricks, but this has got to be the right move. There really is no other option. Night and Pre says, I have a class with 9 students this afternoon. Have you taught any possible prodigies? Possible prodigies, yes. Actual prodigies, no. Yeah, it's a miracle if you're a chess teacher and you have a monster prodigy. I mean, I was thinking about my friend Baba Kulyanikov. He's a good guy. He's a chess teacher in Texas, and He's actually the teacher of Jeffrey Jiang. That's like once in a lifetime. I mean, for a chess teacher who, to teach someone who's going to become an elite player, like Jiang is becoming, I mean, that's not something that happens every day. You like got to be very thankful that, you find someone that's that amazing. So I don't have any chess prodigies that famous. But I've also been playing poker for the last 5 or 6 years, so I took a time off from teaching chess. I had a few students, but I've been fairly doing chess teaching really just part-time until this year, over the last years. And we're back to full-time teaching since March. We're on AD1, and black is hanging on here until this move, probably. But it looks like knight c7 is decisive. Bishop f4, and we win an exchange. He was in an awkward position with less space. There's really no defense to bishop f4. I heard that Josh Waitzkin was a jerk IRL. Camel culture. I don't know, I mean, he was okay with me. I never had a problem with him. He wasn't like, he never did anything. I always thought he behaved pretty well. But I'm talking about Josh when he was older. Like, I first met Josh maybe when he was like 13. So I didn't know the really young, like Josh, who may be like the character in the early stages of the Bobby Fischer movie. I mean, I met him when he was like 13, around 13 or 12, and he was okay. I didn't love him. I mean, he wasn't my favorite person in the world, but he was okay. He was sportsmanlike. I never had any personal issue with him. Played a couple times. I've seen a lot worse, chess prodigies. Nakamura was a disaster when he was a kid. E4, C5, but he got better. Now Hikaru's pretty cool. B4, here we go with the wing gambit. C takes D4. And I'm going to play D5. We actually had the same game other day with Andrea. And it's possible to develop the bishop outside the pawn chain, but it's actually useful to have it in these type of positions. I prefer to play this like a French. So I played E6, and then he does F4. It's not necessary to do F4, but it's thematic as far as pawn structure goes. Yeah, I always found Waitzkin to be pretty sportsmanlike and okay. But as I said, I didn't know him when he was a little kid. I didn't play him until he was already almost a teenager. Knight F3 here. So you might hear a different story from other little kids he played in like scholastic tournaments. I mean, I'm obviously older than Josh Waitzkin, so I'm not, I don't have the perspective of like one of his opponents in the scholastic tournament where they're like stabbing each other with pencils or something. I don't know. Maybe he was a brat. It's hard to say. Bishop D3 though. I like the way that Andre is playing this. Looks like the classical way to do it now. Bishop D3. He can play A3 at some point. We can play Queen B6. But in that case, White seems to be answering with Bishop E3. So it's not easy to play this this variation for Black. Here I'm kind of liking Knight F5. H3 looks a little bit weakening. I think we can afford Knight F5. It's kind of like a King's Indian type of Knight A6, Knight C5 type of thing on the other side of the board. White wants to give up his white squared bishop for this guy. I don't know. I don't think that's a really safe policy. I'm going to play H5 now, and again, not my only option though. Knight G3 is interesting. Well, Knight G3 could kind of mess him up. You got to argue. Knight G3 is an interesting try. You've got to ask yourself, is Knight G3 worth it or not? you know, to take away his right to castle here. It's pretty useful, I would think. I'm going to go with it. We destroy White's castling rights with knight g3. It loses a little bit of time and takes my knight off of f5. Actually, you're probably asking me, why didn't you take on d4? And I don't really have a good answer for you. I got so excited about knight g3 that I forgot I could just take this guy on d4. Yeah, that was a bad idea. I should just take the pawn on d4. Stronger than knight g3. Alright, well, live and learn. We made a mistake, and now we have a lot of options. Bishop e7, like simply developing. But I should have grabbed this pawn. I mean, this is still, a pawn is a pawn. So last game for the stream, guys. Interesting position, though. I like, this variation is interesting for White, but hard to play. You have to be very accurate. You're down a pawn. But I think in a fast game, it's pretty valid. There's some validity here. Now king ef2, we have bishop h4 possibly. You gotta count on that as a possibility, though. I don't really like giving up my guy. Knight e4 check, bishop takes e4, pawn takes e4. Knight g5, and it's kind of hard to maintain my pawn on e4. I'm not real excited about that. Not real excited about that. Knight back to f5. Nothing wrong with that move. Threatening the pawn again. Yeah, I think I like just simply going back. I don't see any. One psychological thing I've noticed with a lot of players is this sort of understandable human nature where they don't want to admit they made a mistake. And that's the kind of case here. Sometimes you have to retreat the piece, just admit you made a mistake. And most people are reluctant to do that. So knight takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes h7, rook takes h7, queen takes d4. It looks very good for black. I kind of have to go with this. I mean, that king on f2 is gonna be toast. We have this diagonal. We've opened this diagonal a7 g1 for potential play against the white king. Our position is very compact. We don't have any weaknesses. I like it. It looks good. Now he just ignored it though. But in this case, I don't think that h4 is a very constructive move. Okay, it stops what, g5? I'm just gonna trade, and trade allows him to develop with queen f3. However, my knight on d4 could be lost sometimes. I think it's the safest to do this. And now we can probably trade pieces with like bishop c5, bishop e3, queen b6 into an ending where a pawn up here would be nice to get a little bit more out of this, like a second pawn or something. We're up just one pawn in this position. No, we're up two. We're up two. Okay, that's definitely. I don't always keep running tabs on my material advantage. You'll notice that a lot of strong players don't really pay attention to that. I'm up two pawns, not one. I think that kind of swings this in. It swings the decision toward trading pieces for me. With one pawn, the endgame is not necessarily winning, but with two pawns up, I'm saying, okay, endgame is fine. Sparkle Horse was a musician. Yeah, he sadly killed himself. I love his music. I love a lot of, indie and alternative rock groups. Kind of my favorite genre. Sparkle Horse is one of those. I just thought it was a little tribute, making this account in his name. Here now, knight d4, attacking queen, attacking c2 pawn, but I've got to be a little bit careful. There is this pawn takes b4 in between move. Could be annoying. But I think I should really concentrate on something fundamental here, like developing my pieces. Castling queenside, I would think, is an option. Castling kingside actually gives white some vague attacking chances, though it shouldn't really be enough. I'm a little worried about like queen h5. If I play f6, he has like queen h5 and sack a piece on g6 sometimes. So it's not that easy. Castling queenside, castling kingside. It looks like castles kingside f6 would be game over, but if I castle kingside and then play f6, he's going to have queen h5 at some point. Actually, yeah, it should be good. I'm really playing f6 here. Obviously now I have to play g6. We have a lot of ways to strengthen our defense. Now f6 bishop takes g6, obviously. White has h5. So I think queen e7. Actually, maybe too slow. Maybe I need to play f5 here. Blockade the king side. It's really annoying. Oh, I could also move my rook and switch plans completely. So indecisive. To play queen f8. Not really what I wanted to do here. But Andrea, very nice idea to get counterplay. Queen e3. An in-between move. He's got 5 minutes. He said yesterday he was going to play faster. I mean slower, but looks like he's not really keeping his word. He's got 5 minutes to my 2 minutes again, with a lost position. The queen e3, trying to solve my problems tactically here. So it looks like it's going to be good. Knight takes this. This looks pretty gruesome. After knight takes e5. That pretty much destroys white's position altogether. Well, this piece goes, his attack is gone. I mean, there is no attack anymore. Yeah, he just dropped his queen. That's the point. You can't do that. You just drop your queen. Andrea, you're still playing too fast, man. Thanks for the game. So 69% to GM. Thanks for streaming. See you guys. So appreciate it, everybody that joined me here for the stream. Up to 62 viewers. That's awesome. Again, check out my videos on YouTube, video chess training, and we'll be back tomorrow with more blitz and classical chess on Fantastic Friday. See you guys later. Thanks, Jeroen, for moderating the chat and just being a good guy in general, and making more people play black every single game against me. I'll get you back for that troll yesterday. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.